We all love underdog stories in mixed martial arts, right? In a sport where equal opportunity doesn't exist, the idea of absolute nobodies making their way to becoming somebodies and conquering the unconquerable, it's pretty awe-inspiring after all. In today's video, we are going to take a look at 10 epic wins when huge underdogs became champions. Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman won. When Anderson Silva fought Chris Weidman in their first fight at UFC 162, he was on top of the world with a 17-fight winning streak to boast about. More than just mere victories, it was the dominant manner in which Silva beat his opponents that made him the greatest of all time. But when belief in one's abilities exceeds reality, downfall begins. After all, pride hath a fall, and Silva learned that the hard way against Weidman. The first round of their fight was pretty much one-way traffic, with Weidman taking Silva down and landing considerable ground and pound. It was nothing that the Brazilian hadn't seen before, however. In the second round, the two stood in front of each other and traded shots, with Weidman being the aggressor and Silva dancing around with his hands low. Weidman landed a shot and Silva pretended to be hurt. It happened again, but Silva kept his hands low, not respecting Weidman's power one bit. Then, the unthinkable happened.
Anderson. Oh my, he got hit! Look at the finish it! It is all over!
Weidman kept on coming forward and ultimately landed a left hook which dropped Silva. Weidman delivered the coup de grace on the ground and announced himself as the new king of the middleweight division. Silva played stupid games and won a stupid prize. It was one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. Ronda Rousey versus Holm. Ronda Rousey had an Anderson Silva-esque fall when she faced Holm at UFC 193 in 2015. Back then, Rousey was considered the undisputed queen of women's MMA without a close second. She was light years ahead of all the fighters she had fought up until that point, both in terms of skill set and popularity, until she met the preacher's daughter, Holm. As she stood across the cage from Holm, Rousey was envisioning another quick finish. But as soon as the referee signaled the start of the fight, the reigning champ had a major reality check. Holm made a mockery of Rousey's championship-level skill by stuffing her takedowns and lighting her up on the feet like a Christmas tree. Rousey's morale was at an all-time low by the end of the first round. The second round was pretty much the same, with Holm being the hammer and Rousey being the nail. And within 1 minute, Holm struck the final blow by knocking her opponent out with a thunderous head kick.
She's hurt. Is in trouble. She's hurt. Holly looking to finish. She's out. Holly.
Joanna Jedrzejczyk versus Namajunas, #1. Now, Joanna Jedrzejczyk is the greatest strawweight fighter of all time, and during her reign as the promotion's strawweight queen, she was loved by everyone, until for some odd reason, she turned heel heading into her first fight against Namajunas at UFC 217. Namajunas has struggled with mental health issues throughout her career, and Jedrzejczyk used her vulnerabilities to break her mentally. During the ceremonial weigh-ins, Joanna warned Namajunas that the Boogie Woman was coming for her.
Boogie Woman is coming for heroes!
The trash talking was indeed pretty merciless, but that's the fight business in a nutshell. Despite Jedrzejczyk's sinister pre-fight antics, Namajunas kept a cool head until the cage door closed. That is when she unleashed violence on Jedrzejczyk and exorcised the devil by knocking her out in the first round.
Jedrzejczyk. Well, Rose. Another knockdown. Rose Namajunas trying to close the shot.
Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. Now, Valentina Shevchenko is as perfect as an MMA fighter could be, but even she had paid a hefty price for making a fatal error inside the cage. At UFC 285, Shevchenko put her flyweight title on the line for the 8th time in her UFC career. She was a heavy favorite heading into the fight, and Grasso was considered nothing more than a lamb to the slaughter. She indeed found it hard to match her foe for the most part of their fight, but Shevchenko made a big mistake in the 4th round. Valentina was ahead on the scorecards when the fight entered the 4th round. The champion was in cruise control until she missed on a spinning back kick. Grasso hopped onto her back in a split second, forced her down, and wrapped her arms around Shevchenko's jaw so tightly that she had no option but to tap. Michael Bisping versus Rockhold 2. Michael Bisping conceived, believed, and achieved his biggest dream by shutting up Luke Rockhold in their middleweight title rematch at UFC 199 in 2016. For nearly a decade, Bisping had been the UFC's finest gatekeeper, beating most contenders in his weight class but suffering heartbreaking losses at the hands of the top dogs. He never gave up on his dream of becoming a champion. However, his hard work and perseverance paid dividends when he was asked to step in on short notice to fight Rockhold, who had already beaten him a year ago. Bisping grabbed the opportunity with both hands. He came out swinging and delivered an early right hand, but Rockhold landed leg kicks of his own. The two continued to trade shots for more than 3 minutes before Bisping cracked Rockhold's chin with a big left hook and added insult to injury with some mean ground strikes until the referee called the fight.
Oh, he got rocked! He hurt him bad!
Now, if you are loving this video so far, show us some love by smashing that like button so we know to make more videos like this for you. TJ Dillashaw versus Hennen Barao won. After 9 lopsided wins in the UFC and WEC, Hennen Barao faced TJ Dillashaw in an intriguing bantamweight clash at UFC 173. Unsurprisingly, Dillashaw was a huge underdog heading into the fight, but as the others mentioned in the list before, TJ also proved why elite martial artists shouldn't be underestimated. Instead of using his wrestling to take Barao down and dominate him, Dillashaw decided to beat him at his own game by standing and trading blows with the Brazilian. After a close first round, Dillashaw started to have more success on his feet thanks to his superior footwork and movement. By the end of the 4th round, Dillashaw seemingly had the win in his pocket, but he made the upset a whole lot sweeter by stopping Barao in the 5th round to become the UFC's bantamweight champion for the first time. BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar won. When BJ Penn fought Frankie Edgar for the first time at UFC 112 in 2010, he hadn't lost at lightweight for nearly 8 years, so he was expected to pass the Edgar test with flying colors as well. But Edgar had the answer to every question posed by the prodigy. The first round was a close one, with both fighters landing some good strikes, but Edgar started to take control of the fight in the 2nd round. The next 3 rounds were more of the same, with Edgar landing his strikes, avoiding Penn shots, and using his wrestling every now and then to take home a comfortable unanimous decision victory to dethrone Penn. Henry Cejudo versus Demetrius Johnson 2. Having dispatched him in less than 3 minutes in their first fight at UFC 197, Demetrius Johnson was expected to hand Cejudo another embarrassing defeat in their rematch at UFC 227. However, it turned out to be one of the greatest fights in UFC flyweight history. The first round was a close one, with both fighters landing some good strikes. Cejudo was able to score a takedown toward the end of the round, but Johnson was able to get back to his feet quickly. Johnson started to take control of the fight in the 2nd round. Cejudo was able to land a few strikes of his own, but Johnson was clearly getting the better of the exchanges. Johnson continued to dominate in the 3rd round, landing some hard leg kicks and using his movement to avoid Cejudo's takedowns. Cejudo was able to land a big right hand near the end of the round, but Johnson was able to survive. The 4th and 5th rounds were pretty close as well, with Cejudo getting the win by a split decision. Cejudo's win was somewhat controversial, and the scores were subject to a lot of debate on social media, but it was still a fair and square win. Amanda Nunes versus Julianna Pena won. Julianna Pena defeating Amanda Nunes was an outcome that nobody saw coming at UFC 269 in 2021, simply because Nunes had been the most dominant female fighter in the last 10 years. When she fought Pena for the first time, Nunes had already defended her title 5 times against some of the best fighters in the division, including Ronda Rousey and Holm. Skill-wise, Nunes was the far better fighter, but Pena's toughness was the difference on this night. Due to sickness and injuries, Nunes had a terrible camp, and at one point she even contemplated pulling out of the fight, but she decided to go ahead with it. Nunes claimed that she was not feeling 100% heading into the fight, which is why she wanted to get the job done early. To do just that, Nunes fought more aggressively than usual, throwing technique out of the window. Pena was tougher than Nunes thought. The Venezuelan vixen took shots on the chin and fired back with more impactful ones. By the end of the first round, Nunes was breathing heavily, and in the 2nd round she didn't have the strength to fight any longer. With less than 2 minutes left on the clock, Pena took Nunez's back and choked her out to pull off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history.
She's not choking! She's not choking! She's dead! Juliana!
Matt Serra versus Georges St-Pierre, 1. Now, Georges St-Pierre has had a near-perfect mixed martial arts career, bar a couple of blemishes that he went on to erase decisively later on in his career. His first one was against Matt Brown, but GSP's loss to Matt Serra was an upset unlike any in the UFC. Serra earned his shot at the welterweight title after winning the Ultimate Fighter The Comeback, which featured 16 former fighters taking each other head-on for another shot in the promotion after having been cut in their previous stints. Despite winning tough, Serra was a massive underdog against the far better mixed martial artist in Georges St-Pierre. The French-Canadian started off aggressively, landing one kick after another to the head, but Serra patiently waited for his opportunity to punch back, and when he did, it changed everything. With just 2 minutes left in the first round, Serra landed a looping right hook that rocked GSP, who backtracked and went stumbling down onto the canvas. Serra followed up with ground and pound like a man possessed until the fight was over. To this day, Serra beating St-Pierre is regarded as the biggest upset in UFC and MMA history. Now that being said, you just watched our video on the 10 epic wins where huge underdogs beat champions. Whose victory do you think was the most impressive? Give us your thoughts in the comments section. And if you liked our video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so you get notified the next time we upload one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.